When we turn on the faucet, we expect the water that comes out to be safe. Water providers around the country test for hundreds of contaminants known to be harmful to human health and try to keep them below dangerous levels. Despite the testing, there are some things that are getting through. In tonight's signature segment, we look at a chemical called 1,4-dioxane. The Environmental Protection Agency says it's, quote, likely to be carcinogenic, and it's been on the radar of drinking water regulators since at least 2009. However, it remains almost completely unregulated in drinking water. Tonight, we begin the first of two reports on drinking water and the challenge of making sure that what comes out of our taps is safe to use.
Imagine the water filter on your kitchen counter. What we're standing next to are just a few thousand times bigger.
This is raw water going out to each of these two vessels that are filled with virgin granular activated carbon.
We're at a water treatment well in Green Lawn, New York, and my guide is Jason Heim, a public health engineer with the Suffolk County Department of Health. This is the last step before it's sent out to thousands of homes. But even before it gets here, the water, which is pumped from more than 300 feet underground, is treated with chemicals like chlorine and is adjusted for the correct pH level.
This equipment here monitors the pH level as it goes out to the consumer.
So this is monitoring the chlorine that's going in the system, and this is just trying to hit 7 exactly. Less than 7 is acidic, more than 7 is where it's like
slightly basic, just over basic. 7 is the goal.
Yeah, it's like high school science class.
Right.
All the county well water is regularly tested here at the Public Health Lab. Suffolk County goes far beyond the nearly 100 contaminants regulated by the U.S. Safe Drinking Water Act. But despite the treatment and testing, there's at least one important unregulated chemical sliding through. And the Environmental Protection Agency says it's, quote, likely to be carcinogenic to humans.
We're analyzing for close to 300 different parameters, including volatile organic chemicals, semi-volatile organic chemicals, pesticides, radionuclides, inorganics, metals, bacteria, pharmaceutical and personal care products, and several emerging contaminants of concern, such as 1,4-dioxane.
1,4-dioxane is a chemical found in degreasers, paint strippers, and household products, and it's one of about 85,000 chemicals in use in the United States that are not regulated in drinking water. In 2009, the EPA added 1,4-dioxane to a list of contaminants to possibly regulate and required every large water provider in the country to test for it. It's the first step in regulating a new contaminant under the Safe Drinking Water Act, and tests between 2013 and 2015 showed 1,4-dioxane is in drinking water around the country. In fact, water systems in 27 states, serving more than 7 million people, had levels of 1,4-dioxane above 0.35 parts per billion. That's the level that the EPA calculates poses a lifetime 1 in a million increased chance of developing cancer.
People say it's 1 in a million chance. Well, maybe that sounds great unless you're the one or your family member is the one.
Adrienne Esposito runs Citizens Campaign for the Environment. It's based on Long Island, which was found to be a hotspot for 1,4-dioxane. 73% of water authorities here had levels of 1,4-dioxane above that long-term cancer risk, compared with just 7% nationwide. Long Island's industrial legacy, with its 34 Superfund sites, is partly to blame. It can take decades for pollution to make its way down to the underground aquifer that supplies Long Island's water. The majority of Suffolk County is also unsewered, and household products like detergents, where smaller amounts of 1,4-dioxane are present as an unlabeled byproduct, end up in septic tanks and can leach into the groundwater.
There, unfortunately and alarmingly, is a gigantic gap between what we know and what we don't know. So we have a lot of water suppliers. They're very judicious. They follow the law. They test more frequently than they're required to. But there's literally thousands of chemicals that are not being tested for and may or may not be in our drinking water.
The Personal Care Products Council, a trade group that represents cosmetic and personal care companies, declined an interview request, but said in a statement, in part, 1,4-dioxane is a byproduct that can form in trace amounts during the manufacturing process, but that levels present in finished products are minimized and do not present a hazard under conditions of use. The American Chemistry Council, an industry group representing chemical companies, declined an interview request but said in a statement, in part, where detected, 1,4-dioxane has been found in low levels that do not present significant risk or cause for alarm. Adrian Esposito takes issue with that, in part because 1,4-dioxane is present in so many places.
So we're getting an exposure level through water, but then also an additional exposure through other products that we're using every day. It's the multiple exposure through many sources that we believe puts us at risk.
The EPA declined PBS NewsHour Weekend's interview request, but said in a statement, in part, EPA will consider occurrence data along with health effects information as part of the agency's regulatory determinations process for 1,4-dioxane, adding, EPA anticipates completing the next regulatory determinations in 2021. Remember, the EPA identified 1,4-dioxane as a chemical it may regulate in 2009 and won't rule on it till at least 2021. History suggests regulation is unlikely. In the 21 years since the Safe Drinking Water Act was updated, the EPA's process has not led to the regulation of a single new contaminant.
We have 85,000 chemicals used in commerce today. How many are we going to have in the next 5 or 10 years?
Judith Enck was an EPA regional administrator from 2009 to 2017 under President Obama.
The dirty little secret in the drinking water area is that for most of the chemicals used in commerce, our water supply is never tested. It's never monitored. It's a short list of what is looked at, and it's impossible to test for all of them. But I think we can be sensible about it.
Enck is not inspired by the direction the EPA is headed. In July, President Trump nominated toxicologist Michael Dorison to lead the EPA's chemical safety program. While working as a consultant for a manufacturer that uses 1,4-dioxane, Dorison co-authored a 2014 paper that found the safe level of the chemical was 1,000 times higher than the EPA's 1 in a million cancer risk, a point that was raised during his confirmation hearing. In late October, the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works narrowly approved Dorison's nomination on a party-line vote. But earlier this week, Dorison withdrew himself from consideration after it appeared he might not win full Senate confirmation.
Given the situation in Washington, it's imperative that the states act.
Which is exactly what's been happening. 6 states have already regulated 1,4-dioxane, and New York may be the next.
Requiring testing for an emerging contaminant.
In October, the New York Drinking Water Quality Council met for the first time. It's made up of state environmental and health officials, scientists, and water providers. The council is required to recommend a maximum allowable level of 1,4-dioxane and 2 other contaminants by next year. Brad Hutton is the Deputy Commissioner of Public Health for the New York Department of Health.
While we've requested strongly for the federal government to establish a unified national standard, which would be preferable, in the absence of one, New York has stepped up to establish its own level.
But deciding how much of a contaminant like 1,4-dioxane is safe and how to potentially remove it isn't easy.
Everyone has a different perception of risk. If we could wave a wand and spend a dime, we would do it to prevent all of those cancers, but it's typically much more complicated.
And once New York figures out the maximum contaminant level, potentially treating it won't be cheap.
I could see our water rates going up 50% if they set this as low as some other states have actually looked at.
Dennis Kelleher is an engineer who represents the Long Island Water Conference, an association of public water providers and drinking water professionals. He says water authorities are caught in the middle when it comes to unregulated contaminants like 1,4-dioxane.
The public is hearing about it and saying, I don't want it in my drinking water. And we're saying, well, we don't know what level is acceptable. And to make things even worse, there isn't an acceptable, approvable treatment system that we can install if we needed to put something in.
So as the water's flowing through, the radicals are destroying the contaminant immediately.
Joe Riccaro is a water quality engineer for the Suffolk County Water Authority. This is one of the first full-scale pilot projects in the country to remove 1,4-dioxane from water.
It's going in right here.
1,4-dioxane passes right through traditional treatment and filtering technology, so the utility's been testing a method called advanced oxidation process. A chemical is added to the water, and it's then run past 72 UV lamps, which strips out the 1,4-dioxane. While the state and county have yet to officially give the go-ahead to put it online, Tests show it reduces 1,4-dioxane below detectable levels. But the system isn't cheap. Treating just the Suffolk County wells that are above the 1 in a million cancer risk level, it would cost about $155 million. Activists working to limit this chemical say it's worth it, and that federal and state regulators need to take a more active role.
We need a public health standard, not one driven by the economy or the economics of the filtration. We need one driven by what protects us from getting cancer. The goal is to keep people healthy. And that's going to cost money. I'm sorry, but it's not free.
While this UV filtering system may work for 1,4-dioxane, for water authorities like Suffolk County, it's not easy keeping up with new threats to drinking water.
As we move forward, there's no black box. There's no magic treatment that's going to remove everything. And I mean, that's the bottom line.